Okay, I want some answers here. By the way, $500 million. I mean, you have all the money in the world, Joe. But will you
$500 million. What?
Will you play do you play the lottery so you could have more money?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's $500 million this weekend.
I heard Donald Trump once bought like $100,000 worth of tickets.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised. And then it probably had somebody using unique numbers.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that,
it's a write-off.
Combinations and.
If you play enough lottery, I think I've talked about this before.
Well,
you save your scratch-offs and stuff.
Well, you can deduct
your losses.
Your losses against your. But you got to keep track of them all.
Okay, I want to ask you about the case in Little Falls. So,
here's
Little
my
Falls.
Answer. Here's my answer.
Well, can I? People don't. Those who are just tuning in don't know what I asked. So let me ask it again. The Little Falls Lumber Company had an employee there that had a swastika tattoo. And it was exposed for all to see. I understand. We don't know all of the facts here. But a young lady who we're going to speak with coming up later on in the hour, by the way, you'll want to be here for that. She complained. And the guy actually did not would not cover it up. Additionally, was quite verbal. And then, at least what we read on Facebook was very verbal about Jews and blacks. It was really, really very bad what he put on Facebook, if that's what he put on Facebook. Question is, can they fire him?
Well, in New York,
does he have a case?
In New York, it's an at-will state, so you actually can be fired for anything.
For anything,
but.
Unless you're fired improperly over something.
Well, if there's an employment contract or some kind of rules at your employment. Yeah. So
chances are at the lumberyard he doesn't have.
Well, you don't know, but let's assume just that he didn't, let's say, respond to the customer, and let's just say he had the swastika tattoo. I think they can terminate him, but that's not going to prevent him from collecting unemployment necessarily.
Right.
Okay,
right.
But on the flip side, I don't necessarily think that he would have any kind of discrimination case, or wrongful termination.
Well, there's something to be learned too with people posting stuff on Facebook and
there's a lot of that goes on, that's going on now, and and frankly, it's you don't have the right to freedom of speech at work. I mean, an employer can require you to cover up your tats and all that stuff.
Well, in the same token, in the same breath, there's employers that will go on, if they're looking for an applicant and they've applied, they can go on their social media and something they see may prevent them from hiring them. So what's that?
You mean like somebody, let's say, doing funnel shots and
right.
and smoking blunts or whatever right on their Facebook?
Yeah, that can be held against you.
Well, not only held against you, but you're never going to get that job.
You're not going to get the job,
so
right?
Don't think for a minute that people don't check Facebook, because it's actually the lawyer's best friend in family court.
That's what's happened.
Love Facebook. Love it.
Love it.
And
greatest social media ever.
And you don't have to be
unless I'm on the wrong side of it.
That's right. Hate Facebook. Facebook.
Really? Did you have to put that up there?
Did you see this story? And I don't know that it's true. That Schumer and a bunch of others have introduced a bill that would make it against the law to boycott Israel. For any business, for any person to boycott. Is that an infringement upon our constitutional rights? If that's true, I can't imagine that's a true.
I'm sorry. I'm not even addressing that. That's nonsense. Okay.
It is nonsense.
It's nonsense. I'm not dealing with it.
Do you believe it's true? I went to Snopes. I went everywhere, tried to find something told me it wasn't true.
I don't care whether it's true or
it's
not true. That's another one of those nonsensical laws. I wonder who they named it after.
I don't know.
Right.
It's not a law yet. It's a bill. If it is even a bill, it might not even be real. But it's been sent to me by several people. Libel, slander, defamation of character. We're talking about the case, the horrific case of the young boy at 6 years old who was run over as a car was backing up out of a driveway. And the boy, African-American, the driver, we're told, is white. And what's going on in America has filtered down into Utica. There was a rally last night. Here is the question. You have people out there saying that the driver was yelling racist things. They basically portrayed him as a racist. And my question is, his name hasn't gone out there. It's going to get out there. Does this guy have a case for libel, slander, and defamation?
He may.
He very well might.
He might.
And who does he sue? Does he sue everybody? Does he sue the people that could he directly sue someone who put something on Facebook?
Generally, lawyers like to sue people that have money.
Right.
So if there's someone around or an organization that's got money,
they're going to go after that.
They're going to go after that.
Which is why you find that radio stations, TV stations, always very, very careful about how they handle cases like this because it's dangerous and you don't know the truth. Yonke Way. Statues coming down. Robert E. Lee statues coming down. The difference between Robert E. Lee, George Washington, and Thomas Jefferson. Although there is a story in right now where there is a councilman in New York City, I believe in New York, who's trying to take down a George Washington statue because he had slaves. What about all of this?
Well, I really struggle with this because, on the one side,
you have Hitler High on the one side. Think about that. What if it was Hitler High on the one side? On the other side, where do we draw the line?
Well, I think that, discrimination is a terrible thing. I think that there's a lot of people that have suffered. But then you start thinking, okay, so, the first thing I thought of when I was thinking about all these statues coming down, maybe I'm wrong, but the first thing I thought, and I might be a little crazy, but I thought, okay, so they took Saddam Hussein's statues down when he lost the war, right?
Yeah.
So, maybe it's a symbol of, maybe they belong in a museum or they belong somewhere. Maybe I don't know. I mean, to me, there's a lot. Again, to the people that are really, really engaged with it, and I'm not as engaged maybe as I should be, but I don't know.
Well, also you don't. If you're black, we might feel differently. Or
well, that's what I'm saying. But again, I don't. I grew up in a colorblind house.
Yeah, I did too.
The same thing, I run my office like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really look at the color of somebody's skin or their religion or whatever I don't do that, and I don't want someone to do that to me. But I don't know. I just think there comes a point in time where, we either have to say that was a point in history or we have to say, you know what, it was a bad point in history. We're gonna do something to make sure that it, there's a reminder that there was a bad point in history. But on the flip side, eradicate it from.
From an
reverence,
honoring the
reverence,
the
reverence
that's
thing.
Exactly the
okay.
perfect word.
That's the point. It was history, but do you have to revere it?
We're not.
That's the.
You're not rewriting history.
That's where That's where I think President Trump is sort of missing the boat. It's not that people are trying to rewrite history, and that's what all these arguments are about.
Right.
It's the fact that people are objecting to the reverence of these people.
Correct.
And that's.
Is it fighting the right fight though to take down the statue? Does that accomplish anything?
Well, I don't know.
It's what he said.
Been there. It's reverent. It's addressing the issue of people's reverence for the people.
It's the movement in America right now, and as I said, the president threw gas on the fire on Tuesday, and like it or not,
I think he's still continuing,
and he's continuing to do it. You're absolutely
he's doubling down on it, and he keeps doubling down.
And it doesn't help that his argument is the same argument that David Duke has, former Grand Wizard of the KKK. That's part of the problem here.
Yeah, but I think that's where it's tone deaf. Because it's the issue of, he's saying, it's an issue of rewriting history. What's next? And then the flip side is it's addressing the issue of people's reverence for those particular symbols or whatever it happens to be. But again, balancing something else in America is the right to freedom of speech and freedom of thought.
Right.
So we have to sort of balance all those things because
not easy.
it's not easy, and I think it's a very, very difficult issue to talk about because you can say something and then have 19 people jumping down your throat.
Well,
the president, however, he keeps doubling down. I mean, it's not very smart.
One other thing, and you'll even get into when you get into these conversations, you get into well, the Civil War wasn't about slavery. That's not what it was about. Okay, the Civil War wasn't only about slavery, but slavery played a very big role in the Civil War, but to say that it didn't play any role is not. I'm telling you, you get lost in the weeds and all of this stuff. You're better off not even talking about it. Jim in Verona's been waiting.
Well, thanks for having me talk about it.
Yeah, I'm glad you did, Joe. You just continue talking about it and over again. I mean, come on.
Daily doubling.
Here's Jim
doubling down
in Verona on the child that was killed tragically in Utica. Jim, go ahead.
Thank you, Bill. I got 6 kids and I got 6 grandchildren, and I don't know, but I got a 5-year-old that's soon to be 6, and the road is off limits. I personally think a 6-year-old shouldn't be allowed to ride a bike, especially in a busy city street. That's quite small. I mean, just out of kindergarten? I got a 14-year-old. I don't even like him to ride the bike up the road. I mean, I got 4-wheelers.
It really wasn't a busy street.
Jim,
it was on the sidewalk.
He was on the sidewalk. So
the sidewalk is very close to the road.
I got to tell you something. The sidewalk with kids and bikes, and Jeff, focus in on this one because you have a kid who's going to be riding a bike before you know it.
Not on the road or on the sidewalk.
Sidewalks are dangerous because people are backing out of the driveway.
6 years old, I got to tell you, they're not aware of the surroundings. They've chased balls in the road and got killed. I feel very, very tragic about it.
I know.
But to me, in my professional opinion of raising children and grandchildren, a 6-year-old, I don't believe is old enough to be riding a bicycle. I have a blacktop driveway. I bought a tennis net and put it at the end of the driveway so they couldn't go beyond a certain point.
My kids, I probably sheltered my kids too much. Now my kids like climbing mountains and cliffs because apparently I sheltered him too much. But I'm sorry, I worried. But I don't want this conversation to turn into a conversation where we're judging the family here.
No, I'm not judging the family. But I'm just saying that.
Maybe you can there's a takeaway here. Be careful of your kids.
I just think that they're focusing on the poor gentleman that had the tragic. I mean, I know that when the parents let the kid ride the sidewalk, they didn't think that was going to happen. And when he was backing out of there, the whole thing probably, accidents happen. I lost a brother in an automobile accident. If he would have stayed at the picnic for one more hamburger, the timing wouldn't have been there. You know what I mean?
Jim, I lost a brother as well. I have the same feeling. 1 minute, 30 seconds.
My opinion, but I appreciate your time and effort. You do a fantastic job. Sir.
Thanks, Jim. Mitch, I'll do, and then I got a break here. Mitch, you're on. I know you want to talk about Charlottesville.
Yeah, just a couple quick comments, Bill. First, I'm going to use a phrase that I know the police chief and all people in law enforcement know about, which is preventive policing. One of the things when I watched the tapes and stuff like that of what happened in Charlottesville is the absence of the police. Now, they were aware that there were 2 opposing groups there, and I think what they should have done is separated the groups, put police officers between them and said, look, we don't want this to get out of hand. You have a right to free speech. You can yell and so forth, but you're not going to attack other people.
Yeah.
And the police were there, and they didn't do it.
I thought they tried. I heard at one point they were arresting people, but it just got so out of control. Remember, you're talking about a small town here. This is not They were unprepared for this. I think you bring up a good point. They were unprepared.
Yeah.
All right.
That's it. The second thing, and a real quick comment: if we start going back and pulling things out of history, one simple fact is that some of the slaves that the British brought to this country were sold to the British by Africans who captured other Africans and sold them to the British. And people sometimes say, well, the British are bad, the Americans are bad. Well, if we want to talk about everybody involved, there were some Africans that also sold their own people into slavery.
All the way around was a terrible time in history. There's no,
and I don't even think we should, the history is past. I think Joe Hobika said something like that. And let's not bring out all the bad stuff and say, let's condemn everybody. I think it's more important we try to be positive and be go for unity.
Well, good luck with that, Mitch. I think you're right, but good luck with that. This is a scary time right now, and I am going to tell you one thing. Mitch, thank you. Joe, I'm worried about this weekend. There are rallies, white supremacy rallies scheduled all across the country. Cities are denying permits, including in nearby Syracuse, all across the country. I'm a little worried.
Well, I hope that there's no engagement of these people.
Let's hope. Got a break. We'll come right back.